Welcome to an episode of Live Coding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. Tonight is episode 7 of the Filtrify photo series, and if you have tuned into the last couple of episodes, then we've known that we've been struggling with some bugs that we just weren't quite able to figure out, but took some time over the last week or so with the thanks to the help of a friend of ours of the channel, Joshua Ferris. He was able to help figure out what we were doing wrong, and we got it figured out. So we're gonna fix our bugs and finish up this project. It was intended to be kind of a shorter one, but somewhere along the line we got goofed up, and we're gonna correct those wrong turns and get back on the right path towards the end of it. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of RabbitWerks Live Coding. Thank you, Free Code Camp Radio, for always the awesome beats. And cool. So without further ado, let's take a look at the work log. So basically episode 7, we just are going to be focusing on fixing our bugs. And first thing we got to do is fix the grayscale spelling mistake. I don't know if anybody has seen it, but it's not quite a spelling mistake because we're spelling it the correct way, but it's not the correct way for CSS. It's spelled with an A, so we'll change that out. After we get that done, we'll rewrite the display image component in a different style, and something that we'll be working on. We're going to use the vm.ref reference point in Vue, and we're going to build our filter string and pass it in as a style, a dynamic style. And cool. So, and then yeah, if you look at the rest of it, we'll see how far we get. We only got about an hour tonight, so we're just gonna get to it and see where we end up. And cool, if you haven't done so yet and you feel like getting more involved in the RabbitWerks coding community, you can go over and check out the link to the Discord. And if you want, I'm sending out dev stickers, RabbitWerks brand dev stickers. It's a 6-pack of all custom design stickers except for the Vue.js sticker. That's a special one that we're throwing in there, but the rest of them will be RabbitWerks brand dev stickers, and final one should be here in the next couple days, and as soon as it's here, I'll start sending them out, packaging them up and sending them out. So if you want to get involved on that and get yourself a free pack of stickers, head over to the Discord and say what's up. And cool. Alright, so let's get started. My toggle button is high. It's F1 right now, and it's linked to the Chrome Help tab. So, okay, so this is where we left off in the last part. So, in the last few episodes, this is where we kind of got to in our stuck point. This is what we were at. Nothing was working correctly. So, let's take a look. First of all, we need to just adjust our grayscale title. So let's go into the Vuex store and change that really quick, because if you remember, if we look at our Vuex store, all of our filters are being held inside of a filters array inside our Vuex store, and then being pulled in to our app with the map actions helper. So cool. So let's just come in here and we'll just change this E to an A. Alright, you can see that it changes that, automatically updates that like that. Sweet. Alright, and that's not going to be the only thing we'll need to do to fix it. And I know that what we've been running into with, in issues is the CSS variables aren't updating, or it's not triggering a refresh of the DOM through Vue when the CSS filters are being changed. So we're not going to go about it that route. We're going to go about it a different route. So we'll show that right now too. So really quick, let's just check that off. So we have not that way. Check that off like that so we can see it. Alright, so rewrite display image component. So let's pull that up really quick and see where we're at. So if you remember, our display image component, basically we are displaying it if, okay, so the image source is a computed property that we're pulling in from our from our Vuex store that's being stored right here from our image loader component. Okay, so when that gets stored and when this value changes, it will basically set a computed property as image source as the data that we passed in from the load image component. Anyways, so we're displaying this image in the center here based on the directive, the v-if directive, so it'll dynamically render it to the page based on what this evaluates to. So when we don't have something in there, it's not going to be in there. If we do have an image source, then it will evaluate out. So that's good and dandy. So what we want to do actually in this case is just in order, we want to change it to v-show instead of v-if, because we do want the image to be on the page, right? We do want the image to be on the page. And the difference between what I've said in past live streams is that v-show just sets the display property to none versus v-if that completely takes it out of the DOM. So we don't want to use that in this case, and we're going to have this h4 at the moment, and it's going to say that we can't use that because we can only have one root level thing, one root level element per component. So let's just get rid of that for right now, just so we don't have to worry about it, and we'll come back to that later on. Okay, so we have v-show in there, and we have an image that's being in there. It doesn't have a source attribute right now, or it does have a source attribute, it doesn't have a value in the source attribute. So when we load it in, it should pull it in still, but we don't want to set it like this because it doesn't always refresh and trigger an update when this attribute changes based on the computed properties. So a surefire way to do that is to basically go about it in a view specific way, another view specific way where it's kind of optimized for targeting HTML attributes and elements, or elements and document object models based on the reference that you give it. So let's take a look and see what we're going to use. If you haven't seen it before, let's see, where did it go? Right here. The ref tag. So it's basically a custom attribute that Vue has, and it just allows us to register. So if you look at the documentation, ref is used to register a reference to an element or a child component. The reference will be registered under the parents component $refs object. If used on a plain DOM element, the reference will be that element. If on a child component, the reference will be the component instance. So if you see right here, they're targeting, they have this ref equals p. That's basically when they can call, they can target that now through the Vue instance by saying vm.$refs.p will be the DOM node that's targeted right here. So super helpful, and we can target it. It's a lot more efficient to do it that way than trying to like set it. And basically it's not always updating. So this way we can make sure that it updates, and I'll show you what we can do with the ref, not in addition to our Vue logic. So all right, so what do we want to do? Let's we can actually get rid of this source attribute. We won't need that, and we're just going to type in ref equals, and let's just say, give it the name image. Cool, just like that. Awesome. So now what do we want to do? We want to just say, let's take a look and see if we can see that. So maybe in this this watch property, I just want to see if we can console.log. Let's console.log this, and that should be the Vue instance. Alright, so if we throw something in there and take a look at, let's take a look at this really quick. Console. Okay, so this Vue component right here, this is that console, what we console log this as. And if we take a look inside the attributes here, this refs object, or refs property, that's that property that we were looking at right here. vm.refs. So if we look inside there, you can see we have this image property, and that in fact contains a reference point to that element in the DOM. So super cool. Sweet. What are we going to do with that? All right. Well, so let's say when the image source changes, instead of console.logging, we'll just say, or outside of the, before the set timeout. So we're still going to do it in this watch property. So that's watching this computed property image source that we have set up. So whenever that changes, it's going to trigger this watch property image source, which is a function that when we do, we'll set this dot $refs dot image dot source equals this dot image source, just like that. Cool. And if we were to say, let's just say console.log this dot, not in quotes, that's not what we're gonna say, this dot $refs dot image dot source, and see what that gives us. And I want to actually dock my dev tools for the live stream, of course. We'll just put it on the bottom. And get that out of the way for now. Pull up the console. Alright, so it's showing that, and let's just throw that in there and look at that. It pulls in, and it's console logging the source of the image that we have set up, and it's still there. And it dynamically shows it, and look at everything seems to be working better than it was, 10 minutes ago, or however long we're into it, 14 minutes ago. Cool. Let's keep going. Alright, so we don't want to show that, we don't want to show this component, the canvas component, so we can actually take that off from the vShow directive. We can set that just to the boolean false, and that will hide it from the DOM. Sweet. Coolio. Okay, so what is the next thing we want to do? Well, let's take a look at our work log. Alright, so we got that set up, we got our ref set up, and now we need to build the filter string and pass it in as a vbound style. Alright, so let's do this really quick. So these filters right here, we're not going to do that. We can clean up our code a little bit with that. And since we're doing that, we might as well get rid of the definitions of those variables too. Which, if you remember, we're holding them in our main.css file, which is in our assets folder, in our CSS folder, and right there inside of the root document node. And filter variables, we don't need those, we can just delete them because everything is getting taken care of inside of Vuex now. And so what we want to do next, after we cleaned up our code a little bit, is we don't need to do that in here. Oops. This is the wrong component. Let's close the display canvas. We're going to go back into the display image, scroll up to the top. All right. And let's see. So the next thing we want to do is, okay, so we're going to have to set up a computed property that pulls in our filters from Vuex. So what are we going to do for that? Okay, so normally we would just say filter, let's just say filters, and it is a function, computed property function that would, normally we would just say return this store.getters.getFilters, but in this case we're actually going to assign that to a variable because we have a bit of logic that we have to do before we return the value. So you can kind of guess what we're going to do. We're going to be building our filter string inside of this computed property and then returning that string instead of just returning an object of filters and trying to do it inside, or an array of filter objects and then trying to do it inside of like a watch property like we were trying to do before, because that was not working correctly. And so yeah, okay, so let's do it. So const, we'll use const to declare it, and we'll just say const filters equals, and this is where we're gonna say this dot $store dot getters dot, and if you remember, we have the getter set up right here in our Vuex store. We have a few different ones, and we're going to be using the get filters getter. Alright, so getters dot get filter, and we don't have to add the invoking parentheses at the end of it, because in computed property this parentheses handles the invoking of it essentially. Alright, cool. Or wait, is it because that, or because this is a function? Yeah, I think it still gets invoked with when it runs right there. So anyways, whatever. Not a big deal right now. So let's continue. So we have our filters pulled out of Vuex, and we have them assigned to a variable called filters. Alright, cool. So what do we do next? Let's get that string built. So we'll say we need to initialize a variable that we want to change. So we'll use the let keyword to initialize that, and we'll just call it filter string, and then we're going to just set that to an empty string for now. And then what we want to do next is we're going to go back into our filters array. So we'll say filters dot and use a for each. For each to basically, we're going to loop through each of them and pull out the values of the name, the current value, and the suffix of each filter and put it inside of the template literal and squish them all together. Alright, cool. So we can just say for each, and it's going to take in an argument that we want for each of them, for each iteration to be called, and that will be a filter. So for each filter in filters, and that's an arrow function. And then inside of the body here, that's where we're going to do our building logic. So we'll say filter string, and we'll say plus equals because we kind of want to like concatenate onto it, add onto it. And we can just say we're gonna pop in a set of backticks right there, and we're gonna have three different variables that we're gonna pull out, and we can just say filter dot name, and then a set of parentheses because we have to put the value that we want inside of parentheses so it displays correctly as the correct CSS rule syntax. Alright, and then so another set of, we'll put another string literal in here, and this one is going to be our filter.current, and it's, if we look at our array of filters, we have the name, the current, and the suffix, so that's what we're targeting right now. And then right after that, we're going to put in one more set of template, or one more template literal variable, and it'll be the filter.suffix. And I think we could even do something like, say, const. Let's see how this works. Name, current, suffix equals filter, like that, I think. I don't know. And so I think this would be like proper destructuring of the filter, so we can kind of do what we were doing inside of the Vuex store, but inside just our Vue instance here. What we were doing with like the actions and the mutations and whatnot, destructuring that to kind of make it a little bit more legible. I'm not sure about if that's the correct way to go about it because I'm still learning the destructuring. So right now we're just gonna comment it out, and let's just get this up and running. And if it works, then we'll try and swap it out really quick and see if that does it. So Cool. And then we just need to make sure we have a space at the end of that. So we kind of stack them on and they're separated. Each filter and value and value set is separated by a space. And then one thing we want to do really quick just to clean it up is we're going to just say filter string equals filter string dot trim. And trim is a method that just removes any white space from the beginning and the end of a string. So it won't affect any of the spaces in the middle, but if we had like a ton of spaces at the end or a ton of spaces at the beginning, it would remove all the excess white space. So it's a nice little string method that they have built into JavaScript, like it. And let's just say console.log our filter string just to see what we got now. And then we can actually just return filter string. Just like that. And make sure we got our semicolons in there, I guess, for the heck of it. Alright, cool. Let's see what that gives us. And looks like things are changing properly. And I want to just say, oop. Okay. So actually, what we need to do is take these guys outside of the for each loop. I'm sorry, that's why it's not working. So once we run the for each loop, we're gonna stack each filter on top or into one giant string, and then we're gonna want to take off or run the trim method on it, and then we'll log it and return it after that, outside of the for each loop. So let's see if that works. So we can clear out our log really quick. Let's just give it a refresh just for good measure. We can pull it out. And let's see. There's just too many things in console log to tell. Let's just look at pull up the Vue dev tools and let's make it a little bigger here. App main container and display container, display image. Oh, error during evaluation. Let's see if we have. Oh, because we have this.store.getters.get filter. We're missing an S. Okay, so let's try putting a proper S on there. Let's take a look at that. And look at that. Cool. We have a filter string being built properly, and if you take a look, you can see everything is there. And at the end here, the white space has been trimmed, but none of our spaces in the middle have been affected. Awesome. Cool. Alright, so let's get this closed out. So we got our filter string up and running, and that is sweet. Cool. Let's head over to the work log and X that off because that's finished. Computed property for filters is finished, and build filter string inside of the computer property is finished, and we're returning that filter string as the computed property. Alright, so in the process of that, we have moved away from the CSS variables for the filters. We're still going to keep it for like the styling, so the static colors and whatnot, since it's stuff like that isn't ultra dependent, and we're not changing it all the time, and for whatever reason it just wasn't working in the way we wanted it to, so that's all good. Alright, so let's take a look. We have this little note in here, set CrossOrigin to anonymous. If at any point you are working on this and your image is giving you a CORS error or CORS warning, which is a cross-site or a resource sharing or CrossOrigin resource sharing or whatever, so it's like if you're trying to pull an asset from somebody else's server and you don't have explicit permission to do that or have something set to get around it, then it's gonna say, nope, I don't think so. I'm not giving you what you want. I don't know who you are, and we didn't agree to anything, so go away. And you'll get a big fat CORS error in your console, and your app will break and all this good stuff. So, well, I don't know if it'll necessarily break for the errors, but anyways, CORS is kind of a pain in the butt. I'm still really new to it myself, but if you're ever coming across this issue with this app, we're just gonna set the CrossOrigin on the image to anonymous, so that way we can, it's static assets like images and stuff like that, you can still pull from other servers without explicit permission, as long as you have like the CrossOrigin set to anonymous. At least there's some sort of like attribute set to that. I'm not sure why that is, to be 100% honest. InfoSec and all that good stuff, and the security of the web and JavaScript, and I know there's good reasons for why everything like this is, but the focus of this isn't necessarily InfoSec or like not InfoSec, but yeah, like yeah. Anyways, so we're just gonna set the CrossOrigin. You can see actually right there, if you set it, it's gonna be set to anonymous, and that just basically gives it a default base permissions kind of deal, that you can access stuff like assets and whatnot from other servers. So I don't know, you have to look into it if you want to learn more about it. I can link something in the description if you want. I'm not 100% sure, so don't ask me. Alright, cool. So we have that in there. It should alleviate some errors if we ever do come across it. Maybe we can figure out a way to demonstrate it by taking that attribute out. But for now, we're going to leave it in, and I suggest you do the same if you're following along. And okay, cool. So what is the last thing we want to do? We have our, not that. Let's go and pull up our picture. Bring it in. Let's see if it's still working all right. And okay, so we need to get our filters applied to this, and we're not using CSS variables. So how are we going to do that? Well, we have this handy dandy filter string that is set correctly. So why don't we just set some styles in line v-bound with Vue? Cool. So you can bind to the style attribute of an HTML element and set it dynamically based on your Vue instance and all that stuff, and it makes it there's all different types of ways to do it. You can do it, classes, dynamic classes that change, that apply styles. You can set the styles directly dynamically inside of the style tag like this, what we're going to show right now. A lot of ways to do it, and it's basically what way works best for your use case in the situation that you're coding for. So there's not a right or a wrong way to go about these different things, but as long as you're writing code that's not breaking, there's that, I guess, writing code that breaks is the wrong way to do it. So you got to figure out the right way to do it so it doesn't break. But there's not like a right and a wrong way. There's preferences and whatnot. People will tell you this and that, but I think as long as you kind of understand what you're writing to a certain degree, and you can come back to it in a little while and be like, okay, I still kind of understand this, then I think you're going down the right path. At least that's how I feel about it. And I know getting started in web dev is like a huge, daunting, massive overload of like, don't even know where to start, but so much information you don't even know where to start, kind of thing. So just keep plugging away and take time off and take a break. But anyways, let's get going on this project. Okay, so let's bind to the style attribute. So let's set up a style attribute. It's just gonna be style equals, and we need to add the colon at the beginning of the style, so that's the shorthand for vbind. And inside of that, now we're going to be able to set in a pair or a set of curly braces. And in here is where we're going to set up our Vue syntax to set up the filters. So the property that we're going to style is called filter. Oh, we got to put it inside quotes. filter. All right, and then we're gonna set it as the filters, just like that. So we're setting the style property filter as the filter string that is getting returned from the filter's computed property. Okay, let's see if that is gonna break it. Pull that in, and wow, look at that, and it's working. Woo! Sweet, rock on. All of our filters are working, and it's not breaking, and everything looks sweet. Cool. That's awesome. Alright, so what do we want to do next? Well, we can play around with that for hours, or we can keep going. So we got this set, and we got our display component. Oops, keep deleting the wrong one. Alright, and I guess inside that we should probably say that we set dynamic styling of filters. Cool. Excellent. So let's just clean up this design a little bit. So we can talk about let's just get these capitalized a little bit. We'll capitalize the first letter, and we can do something really neat in Vue. And I think React and Angular have this as well. They're called filters. Go figure, we're gonna filter the filters. Basically, let's just take a look at the Vue documentation so I can explain this correctly. Let's not go. Need the guide. And excuse me. Where is it? Come on. No, all the way down. Vue instance. Goodness. Okay. Let's see. Let's just bring that here. There we go. Filters right there. Okay. Vue.js allows you to define filters that can be used to apply common text formatting. Filters are usable in two places: mustache interpolation and vbind expressions. Filters should be appended to the end of a JavaScript expression denoted by the pipe symbol. So we're going to use it in, let's see. Let's take a look at, actually, let's just add all this stuff. We're going to get add all. Whoop. Okay, I think that's fine. Get commit. And we're just going to say fix. Image filters fixed. And working removed CSS variables for filters. Excuse me. Alright. And just put that, and then I'll push this at the end of the session. We'll push the code up. Okay, so let's see, let's just clean this up a little bit. So we want to use actually this capitalized filter. So that's all we're gonna have to do because it's built into Vue. And let's pull up the control panel, filter panel. Where is it? Filter. Okay, filter.name. And then so if we add the pipe character and we just say capitalize like that, I think that's all we have to do in this situation. So let's take a look at our app. Let's see. We can define it. Do we have to register it? Filters. You can define local filters. I thought they had some built-in ones. Okay, well whatever, we're just gonna grab this. So it says we're gonna set up filters in the components options. So filters, capitalize, function, it takes a value. If no value, return empty string. If there is a value, set the value .toString, return value at char character 0 to uppercase plus value .slice. The second part of the array that it slices from. Okay, makes sense enough. Alright, let's just grab that and just put it in here and see what happens. So you take some of this white space out of here, and then we're gonna go underneath the props and before the methods, and we can put our filters in there just like that. Make sure to correct the tab indentation and comma that out. I think now that should be all we have to do to get it to work, and boom. Alright, cool. And then I guess we could try and do something with this hue rotate, but I'm not gonna worry about it right now. So that's cool. Let's see. Actually, you know what? Let's just say come down to this capitalize thing. Let's see if value equals triple equals hue rotate, and we could say well, see, this is the thing though, like we would have to set it up that we'll have to just check it for a dash or whatever, or split it. So we would split it on the dash, add a space, and then the next character we'd have to capitalize, but I'm not that good at this stuff right now, so. But I think if you wanted to do it, that would be probably the way you do it. That's fine. Let's just give it a shot, actually. So if a value not 100% sure, but I feel like it's right on the tip of my fingers, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, so we have our filter on there applied to our filter titles. So let's just mark that as complete. Alright, so the next thing, I don't know if anybody has been seeing this as much as I have, but obviously we've noticed that the filter panel seems to float up into the load image component, and we don't want that, even though we're probably not going to be using it on something this small. But if we do turn this into like a mobile app or whatever, then we don't necessarily want that behavior. So what we can do to alleviate that is just add a min height to the load image component. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Image loader component. So what is this sitting in? It's going to be the image loader outer. Alright, and let's just scroll down to this image loader outer. So we can set a min height right here, and we can just say, let's just go ahead and set it as 8 rem, because if we remember, 1 rem is set to 20 pixels, so 8 is going to be 120 pixels. And let's see. So yeah, that's actually pretty accurate. I guess we could probably make it a little bit, make it 140 pixels, so that way it's a little bit smaller. But yeah, so right there you can see that it just, everything just kind of like it has its own space regardless of how small it is now. It's not bleeding up into a different components area. Cool. Alright, so that's that, and cool. We have that, and let's take a look. What do we want to do next? We have these filters, and then so we have two other steps that we're probably going to take care of at some point, and it's going to be the reset filter button component and the download image button component. So we can take, where do we want to put that? We can take the filter panel. That's this section right here, and I think underneath it would probably be fine if we just have all this stuff moved up and just have like kind of a same or similar sized box like this down here, because eventually what we'll do is we'll have a reset filters button. We can probably start building this tonight, but we're not going to get into the download image because I want to spend a little bit of time talking about how the process of it, bouncing it down to a canvas and whatnot. So, but I think we could get started building out the layout of it a little bit. So basically we're just going to have it down here, and I think we'll have a reset filters button and a download button, and then we'll have a text input, and we'll have that, we can type in a custom title for the image. Otherwise we'll just set it as either something, we'll name it as like a default, or we could probably try and just, I don't know, we could look through the image and see if there's any metadata in there we can pull from it, but I think it might be easier to just set it as like edited image or something. You can play around with it and do whatever you want. That's the best part about it. These are all just suggestions to help everyone learn. Cool. Alright, let's just get a little bit further on this secondary, what do we want to call it? We're just going to put it inside, so it's going to be inside the filter panel, and we can just call it, let's put a new folder in here, and we'll call it the we can call it save image, and then we'll put a new file in here, and it'll be called save image container. We're using the word panel in this app, I guess, as a convention, so we'll just say save image panel, and then sc scaffold. Okay, so I haven't mentioned this before, and if anybody's super confused, I'm sorry, that when I type in this sc scaffold, these are generated from Vue snippets, code snippets, the Vue 2.0, let's see, 2.5 plus Vue 2 snippets available in the Visual Studio Code extension library. I'm pretty sure most of the text editors out there will have some sort of snippets available, but basically we could take a look at it really quick. Tell you exactly which one it is. Somewhere, Vue 2 snippets by HollowTree. It's got 1.5 million downloads. Basically, it just gives you a bunch of predefined Vue snippets of code that you can use to kind of give you a boilerplate of whatever you're looking for. Super handy. Most libraries and frameworks that have some sort of popularity and following to it will have some sort of snippet library that you can use. So I recommend, if you want to take a look at it, it helps cut down boilerplate coding quite a bit, so take a look at that. And it looks like Joshua has arrived in the chat. Hey Josh, how you doing tonight? Thanks you for stopping by. We're just talking about basically just gonna get started on the save image panel thing that we're gonna put underneath the filters. We got everything done and working, so that's awesome, and thank you so much for all the help that you've contributed towards getting this whole thing figured out and worked through with me. It's been immensely helpful. And as you can see, whoops, not with that little code snippet right there, but with this right here, we got everything working, which is phenomenal. That's awesome. Love it. Cool. So let's see, what are we gonna do next? What I was just talking about was basically just clearing up any confusion on how you get these typing in scaffold and get a Vue boilerplate like that. It's from the Vue 2 snippets. And yeah, okay, so what are we doing? We're building that panel really quick. So that is gonna go kind of be similar to what this in size to this, and it's gonna just sit underneath all of our filters. So we can just put a div in here, an outer div to hold it. We'll just call it this save image. Oops, save image panel outer, and let's just say hello world. Alright, we have that in there now. And close that out. Let's open up our other filter panel component. Where is it? Right here. Right in front of me. And then okay, so in conjunction with this project we've been using, if you've been following along, to the extent of using my Flexbox utility library, whatever, then we've been using that. So we're just gonna keep going in that same convention. And where do we want to put it? So if we look at this, we got our filters. So that's the H2. Oh, wait a second. I think we need to actually go up a level to the control panel. Loader. Filter panel. Okay. So yeah, inside of this component is where we're gonna need to go. So we can actually start by importing the new component we just created. So import save image. Did we put save image underscore panel? Take those underscores out because I'm not using those in this project. So we have import save image panel from /filter panel, and you know what, before we do that, I think we're gonna take this folder out and put it in just inside the control panel. Okay, so just to keep it kind of separated, I took the save image folder and its save image panel component inside the save image folder and pulled it out of the filter panel component or folder, and just it's living in the same level now as that. So in the control panel we have the filter panel and then the save image folder. Sorry for the confusion. Okay, but basically because we want to be able to just have it be its own entity for the most part, so we can just call it save image panel. Excellent, just like that. And then once we have it imported, we could register it in our components. And save image panel Bob case, so we can use it as valid valid HTML attributes, custom tags, or, you know what I mean. Save image panel is what we are importing it as, and then the final step in this whole deal, Bob, probably want them above the image. What do you mean? Or what are you referring to the component that we're building right now? I was just thinking that because the whole thought of keeping everything in this like control panel is that just we want to have as much real estate available as possible, but I guess we could just we could put it underneath it or put it on top of the image or even in this bar or something like that. But I think it'll balance it out if we have the same size kind of thing down here as up here. I don't know, we can play around with it and see what happens, but we're just getting the container built right now, and then we're probably going to wrap things up shortly after that for the evening. Okay, where are we at? So let's just bring it in right here, save image panel, because that's the name we gave it down in our components where we registered it, and that'll bring in a custom attribute or custom element. And you can see down here it says hello world. Sweet. Alright, so what we need to do now is set the flex amount on that guy. So let's just take a look, and then we're going to set it inside of this, so we can actually just go in here and try and set this as flex 1. See what that is. Okay, so that kind of gives us the same size that we have right there, and then if I bring in the style, or if we target the outer panel, we're just gonna set it, give it a min height, basically same thing we did for the load image, so we don't have any overflow going on when the screen is all goofed up on sizing. We want those to be displaying properly, so we'll just say min height. We can just say 7 rem again, just to see what that gives us. It's about the same size as we were at with the flex 1 right there. And then let's just give our border top, so we can, did we have, right, okay, so we do have the nav bar black, so we'll just take that little snippet right here, and just put it in there just like that. We should have a cool deal on the top there to give us a little bit of separation. And Joshua in the chat was saying if you were to just write the component in the object, it should automatically allow you to kebab case them without needing to declare it specifically. Yeah, that's a good point. Another thing you can do is if you don't want to have these different I know it can be like kind of strange having it imported one way and then like changing the naming of it that way. Some people, another way you can do it is actually if you just use camel casing, you don't have to, it'll automatically convert it. And I think I showed this before at some point, but if you are registering your components like this, and we got a new subscriber from Ping. Thank you for subscribing to RabbitWerks JavaScript. That's awesome. If you want to, feel free, hit up the Discord and say what's up, and we can send you out some awesome dev stickers. Thanks for checking it out. You rock. Let's close that notification really quick. All right, sweet. So like I was saying, we just have, you can either do the kebab case inside quotes like this, otherwise you can use camel case, and that will just allow you to do it without quotes. So we could just say save image panel, and that should automatically convert to the same thing behind the scenes as it would here. But again, kind of the same thing going on. This is even more confusing to me, and so now we have 3 different naming styles going on. We have the Pascal case set to camel case, and then it's getting converted to kebab case, and it just looks kind of ridiculous. So I just like to cut down on that extra transformation, whatever you want to call it, and just register it as the kebab case, because that way I can kind of keep track of, have less names of the same thing flying around. But you can do it however you want. There's multiple ways to do it, and that's a great thing about Vue. So Alright, cool. We have this little component going on now, and let's see, what do we want to do next? Let's take a look inside here. Let's just commit this, add it, git add all, and we can say git commit. And say added, save. Alright, cool. What do we want to do? Before, what time is it? We got a couple minutes. I think this is probably going to be where we're going to call it for the evening. Unfortunately, we won't have too much time tonight. But we did get the major problem that was roadblocking us solved, and we're back on to learning. Thanks again, Joshua, for all the help that you provided in this project. Go give that guy a high five, virtual high five for sure. Yeah. Anyways, so I will, what I'm gonna do is get all this stuff cleaned up a little bit. I'm gonna commit the code that we need to commit still. Looks like there's this guy, I guess, at the semicolon that I just added. Push it up to GitHub, and you can go and check out the code base yourself and play around with it and see where we're gonna go with from there. We're almost done. So if we just take a look at our work log, we just have a couple of items that we could do for a sprint. The next episode, we're gonna be finishing off this download component, essentially the same image component we started on tonight. That includes resetting the filters and the actual download functionality, which shouldn't be too tricky. It's pretty simple, but we just want to make sure we dedicate enough time to talk through it and kind of explain the process as best as possible. We'll shoot for the normal time next week on Thursday evening, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time is what we're going to try and shoot for right now until further notice. And so again, if we look at the sprint, we can just routerify it so we can get these actual navbar link things working. You can make like a code splash page, or code up a splash/landing page, and then if we want to get really crazy, we can go ahead and start, we can make like a little dynamic user alert that'll display if for whatever reason we reset the images or the filters, or if the source is invalid, if there's an error bouncing the image down. Just a couple different use cases, but we could build just a reusable alert message component that we can use. And cool, I think that will be pretty good. And then, so let me know what you want to do for the next series, the next live coding series. Once this project wraps up, I don't know 100% what we're going to be doing for the next one, if we're going to continue with the projects or if we're going to just look at a few different concepts, take the next handful of episodes, next series, and just look at some individual stuff a little bit more closely, a little bit more example based. But I would love to hear what you guys want to do, what you guys want to learn, what we want to check out. If there's any cool projects that you have, feel free to give that a shout too. Best way to talk about all this stuff is to, again, check out the RabbitWerks Discord server, and the link will be in the description. The link is already in the description. You can go check it out. And then also, that's the best place to get your hands on the RabbitWerks dev sticker pack that'll be coming out as soon as I get the last stickers back from print, and they're just taking a little bit, but patience is a virtue. So without anything else, I think that's gonna do it for the evening. Thank you so much for watching another episode of RabbitWerks Live Coding with Vue.js and Vuex, and we've had a blast. Thank you, Free Code Camp Radio, for again always providing awesome tunes. We're gonna do a little bit of a trial run on the Spotify playlist to make sure we don't have any issues with the content. ID system on YouTube on a private session before we start broadcasting and doing streams with that. But I will post the link in the description if you want to go and check out the RabbitWerks Code Beats Spotify playlist. That is available now as well too. So whatever you want to do, we got a little bit of something to tickle everybody's fancy. So I hope to see you in the Discord, and without anything else, thank you so much again for tuning in, and everybody have a great night and have a great weekend. No matter where you are in the world, stay awesome.